Hello, my name's Christian, and one of my New Year's resolutions was to make YouTube stuff, and I'm talking like this because I didn't put enough thought into how I was going to introduce this video. I'm going to talk about this now. So we are currently enjoying, or perhaps not enjoying, two very different versions of Sherlock Holmes on our television screens. The BBC giving us event television with Sherlock, and CBS giving us slightly more generic crime drama with Elementary. But if that's not enough Sherlock for you, Guy Ritchie also gave us a couple of movies recently, so let's have a look at all of them. Please note that I am a fan of all three versions, despite whatever criticism I might throw at them. This should probably go without saying, but this video will contain spoilers for all of the above. So the BBC's Sherlock has been the inspiration for this video. And as of recording, we are 2 episodes deep into season 3. Now Sherlock seems to go through a set 3-episode structure, those episodes being the plot setup, a diversion, and then the plot conclusion, which could also be described as the enticing mystery, the worst episode of the series, and the exciting thriller. And while Series 3 seems to be following the first half of that, I'm not entirely sure it's following the second. I thought that the first episode was a little limp. Not bad, just not quite what I was hoping for, whilst I thought the second episode, The Sign of 3, was fantastic. Easily the best episode since the pilot, for me anyway. I understand that like the first 2 seasons, it's annoying that we've forgotten the larger story for a whole episode, and in this one it did take half of the bloody episode for Sherlock to actually start Sherlocking. And whilst the cases we saw did seem a little random, they eventually came together in the end in what is probably the cleverest story seen in the show thus far. The first episode of season 3 was still good, but it had much of the issues that the show has in general. It was occasionally so fast paced it was difficult for anything that was happening to have any real meaning. It would often get caught up in its own visual tricks for a little bit too long, proving that you can have too much of a good thing. And the plot was little more than a feeble excuse to drag Holmes and Watson through a series of seemingly random encounters. It felt like they had very little to do with each other. More grievously, the inciting mystery on the underground train just kind of got solved by eventually telling us enough information. I mean, there was an obvious way that it could have been done, but we were repeatedly told that it couldn't be done that way until eventually we were told that it was done that way. I mean, what the hell was that about? I always think that a good mystery is one that the audience have an outside chance of solving themselves. Even if it is a very small chance, if there's a moment at the end where the reveal makes you slap your head and think, why didn't I think of that? Then that enhances the experience for me. Cleverly, the new episode also plays on the fan obsession with how Sherlock survived his final encounter with Moriarty, by opening with a particularly silly explanation for how Sherlock survived his suicide at the end of Series 2, which is quickly revealed to be a deliberately ludicrous theory being posited by the disgraced Anderson. Problematically, however, how Sherlock survived his suicide jump at the end of Season 2 is a big question that everybody wants answered. And whilst an explanation is eventually offered by Sherlock himself, it's implied that it might be a lie, and the explanation is a bit convoluted and hard to believe anyway. The gist of it being that essentially with enough people and preparation time, anything can be accomplished. And that's just kind of boring. So we're left a little empty in this regard, and we hope it will pay off in the next episode. Unsurprisingly, Sherlock is held together by its brilliant cast of characters, and whilst the plots don't always work, and they have occasionally fallen pretty far from the mark, Cumberbatch and Freeman are always fun to watch. This is fundamentally the difference between Sherlock and Elementary. Whilst it's probable that the curious 3-episode structure of Sherlock is at least partly due to our heroes' schedules being slightly too busy to pin them down for any longer length of shooting, I don't think Sherlock would work in a longer format. The quirky design and extreme, almost caricature portrayal of Sherlock himself would likely get very old very fast, whilst Elementary has a slightly more subdued, shall we say bog-standard, structure, which lends itself to a more formulaic villain of the week police drama, and with a Sherlock who is much more sympathetic and human, I suppose, in many ways. Unfortunately, Elementary never really rises beyond this police drama, and while Sherlock is an interesting character, he's no more interesting than, say, Monk or Castle or any other of this same genre. The BBC have brought a modern-day reimagining of the stories with an emphasis on the drastic angle at which Sherlock's character is skewed, and CBS have opted to make a cop show that happens to have Sherlock in it, perhaps more as a marketing tool than anything else if one were to be cynical about these things. BBC Sherlock is essentially a modern-day take on the stories we know and love, albeit taking a few liberties here and there. It is, if nothing else, written by fans of Sherlock Holmes who know their way around the Holmes universe. The same could be said of Elementary, but the show diverts so far from the standard I wouldn't be shocked to learn it was written with Sherlock in mind, rather than with a passion to make Sherlock. Sherlock does attempt many familiar storylines and cameos. While some might say its interpretations take a lot of liberties, it's nothing compared to Elementary. Bear in mind in Elementary that Mrs. Hudson is a transsexual muse turned cleaner. As a general rule, the films are considerably more accurate to the source material, but have chosen to focus on Holmes' skills as a man of action, which isn't without precedent by any means, but they've taken it to an extreme. However, Holmes is not just John McClane in a funny hat. For the films they created what they dubbed Holmes-o-vision. Guy Ritchie's Holmes is a problem solver, able to map out every situation in a split second, giving him a unique insight when it comes to punching other men in the face. He can spot your weakness and predict your moves, allowing him to take you down in the quickest way possible. It is a very cool way of enacting Holmes' intellect and allowing for the filmmakers to show a fight scene twice, once in slow motion and once in regular speed, which complement each other brilliantly. It's easily the best thing in the films, even though it's something that I immediately thought needed to be in the Jack Reacher movie. A movie which unfortunately turned out to be pretty mediocre and boring. The big problem, of course, with Sherlock Holmes on TV is that no one seems to know what to do with him. Elementary dumps the character into a generic whodunit, and Sherlock can't seem to decide if he wants to be a movie of the week or a character drama. He's a character who lends himself to solving mysteries, but I feel all the good plot lines in that vein have already been gobbled up by Jonathan Creek. So that was my first video for YouTube, wasn't that exciting? It actually went a lot longer than that, I had a lot more to say. I'm trying to keep it, the video relatively short, because I wanted to get it out there, see what I could do. But yeah, I will probably cover the other stuff again at a later date. There's the last episode of Season 3 of Sherlock is coming out on Sunday, so I will try and post next Monday, let's say, do a review of that, and I'll polish off what the bits that I didn't get time to talk to on here. Again, this was essentially an experiment. I'm just trying to make a video, first video for the channel, trying to make a video, get it out there, kick the channel off, and hopefully making a lot more videos in the future. So, if you liked it, comment if you want to comment, subscribe to my channel if you want to see what nonsense I do next. I'm going to try and keep it interesting, try and keep it nice and varied. It's going to be a bit experimental as time goes on, because I just don't really know what direction the channel is going to take at the moment. Do check out Flitter Films for all of my filmmaker stuff. I'm a filmmaker, by the way. I probably didn't mention that at all. So yes, do check out Flitter Films, and I will hopefully see you for more of these. If this was interesting enough to make you want to come back, try and be entertaining. I'm just rambling really now at this point, so I should probably stop. This is harder than it looks. The end.